What's up, Bengals fans? It's another tough Monday in Cincinnati, and you already know what that means. We're breaking down another rough outing for the Bengals, this time a 37-24 loss to the Detroit Lions. 3 straight weeks of frustration, and honestly, it's starting to feel like a pattern. Let's jump right into it. The biggest question flying around right now, is it finally time to move on from Zac Taylor? And I've got to be real, calling that an overreaction doesn't fit anymore. This isn't about one bad game or a rough patch. It's about a head coach who looks completely out of answers. Every week, it's the same story. The same play calls. The same predictable motions. Other teams disguise plays, build layers into their offense, and keep defenses guessing. The Bengals? They line up, show their hand, and hope Joe Burrow can make magic out of nothing. And honestly, he's been carrying this offense far more than anyone wants to admit. Before we get into more Bengals news, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and tap the bell icon so you never miss an update. Now, let's move on to the new news. Back to the field. Pre-snap motion is supposed to create confusion for defenses, not just look good on film. It should force defenders to adjust, open lanes, and give receivers a running start. But in this Bengals offense, it feels like motion for the sake of motion. No creativity. No evolution. Just the same static look, week after week. Something has to change, because this team, this city, and this fan base deserve better than wasted talent and copy-paste game plans. It's the same story every Sunday, predictable, lifeless, and frustrating. The Bengals offense looks like it's running on autopilot, and Zac Taylor just can't seem to find a way to spark anything new with Jake Browning under center. The play calling feels stale, the ground game is non-existent, and the refusal to give Sam Perine more carries is beyond confusing. It's like watching a rerun that you didn't like the first time. Let's be real. Nobody actually expects the Bengals to fire Zac Taylor mid-season. But at this point, it's hard not to ask why not. How many more flat performances, wasted drives, and missed chances will it take? The frustration is real across this fan base, and it's hard to blame anyone for feeling done with the same routine. Now, let's talk about something that might split opinions. Trey Hendrickson. Hear me out. Trading him might sound crazy, but it could be the smart play for the future. Hendrickson is still a force. 2 sacks yesterday, 4 on the season, plus a forced fumble. The guy never stops fighting. But the Bengals front office has a tough decision to make. He's turning 31 in December, and it's no secret that the team already explored trade options when they couldn't get the return they wanted. Realistically, they won't get a first-rounder at this point. Any team trading for him would either be renting him or negotiating an extension right away. But a second-round pick and maybe another late-rounder? That's not unrealistic. And if Cincinnati truly wants to reload for the future, that kind of draft capital could make a difference. Bottom line, keeping Hendrickson on a team that's struggling at quarterback and spinning its wheels might be doing him, and the franchise, no favors. It's time for the Bengals to think bigger, act smarter, and stop pretending that minor tweaks will fix major problems. The question everyone's asking right now, should the Bengals move on from Trey Hendrickson? It's not about wanting him gone. It's about facing reality. If this team can't fix its quarterback situation soon, there's no real path forward this season. At that point, turning a valuable veteran into draft capital might be the smartest long-term move. It's not giving up, it's planning ahead. And speaking of quarterbacks, it's time for the Bengals to make a move. Either bench Jake Browning or find someone who can steady this offense. Because right now, it's hard to watch. Browning has struggled badly. Too many turnovers, too few answers, and no rhythm at all. Now, to be fair, the offensive line hasn't helped him. Protection collapses fast, and the play calling isn't doing him any favors. But the bottom line is this. The Bengals can't afford to waste another season waiting for something to click. They need leadership under center, someone who can inject confidence into this offense and keep the team competitive. Sure, bringing in a new quarterback mid-season is never simple. The playbook takes time to learn, the chemistry takes time to build. But doing nothing? That's worse. This team is too talented to keep spinning in place while the rest of the AFC moves forward. Cincinnati has to decide who they are, a team that adapts or a team that accepts mediocrity. Right now, the answer feels painfully clear. Here's a stat that says everything about the Bengals passing game right now. Jake Browning averages just 3.2 completed air yards per attempt. That means even on passes he does complete, the ball is barely traveling 4 yards downfield. You can't win NFL games when your offense lives this short. And when he does try to stretch the field, it usually ends with the ball in the wrong hands. That long touchdown to Ja'Marr Chase? Let's be honest, it wasn't some brilliant throw. It was a busted coverage and a perfect route by Chase. Browning deserves credit for hitting the open man, sure, but that play had broken play luck written all over it. And it's tough to build confidence in your quarterback when your biggest highlights come off defensive mistakes. Now, if the Bengals do decide to look outside for a quarterback, the market's thin and not exactly exciting. Kirk Cousins might technically be available, but his contract is a monster. Russell Wilson could be an option if the Giants are willing to talk, but that's a massive question mark too. Marcus Mariota has shown flashes, yet nothing that says he can turn this team around. If Cincinnati really wants a shakeup, someone like Jameis Winston could at least bring life to this offense. Sure, he's unpredictable. You'll get interceptions, but you'll also get fireworks. And right now, this offense could use a little chaos, the good kind. Bottom line, sticking with what's not working isn't strategy, it's surrender. The Bengals need a spark, someone who can push the ball, stretch defenses, and remind this city what aggressive football looks like. Because 3-yard passes and broken coverages aren't going to save this season. When you look around the league, there aren't many great options for a quick quarterback fix, and that's part of the problem. Tanner McKee has flashed some promise in Philadelphia, but the Eagles aren't exactly in the business of giving away solid backups. To get him, the Bengals would have to make it worth their while. Jacoby Brissett? He's been around, started plenty of games, and brings the size and mobility to escape collapsing pockets, something this offensive line gives you plenty of practice with. He's not flashy, but he's steady, and right now, that might be enough. Gardner Minshew is another name that comes to mind. A gutsy player who can extend plays and bring some energy to a lifeless offense. You never quite know what you're going to get, but at least he plays with heart. And then there's Andy Dalton, the familiar face. Bringing him back would be a full-circle moment for this franchise, but let's be honest, the Andy Dalton that once led this team is long gone. He's a veteran voice, not a savior. So, the truth is simple, none of these names are perfect, and that's the tough reality the Bengals are facing. There's no easy answer waiting out there. Until the front office finds a real solution under center, and a game plan that doesn't feel stuck and repeat, this team is going to keep running in place, week after week. Cincinnati deserves better than that. Look, the Bengals may be losing on the field, but that doesn't mean this team is hopeless. Every tough stretch in the NFL tests who you really are, and right now, Cincinnati is being tested harder than ever. What matters now isn't just the scoreboard. It's how this locker room responds. Joe Burrow, Ja'Marr Chase, T. Higgins, these are competitors. They've fought through worse and turned frustration into fuel before. The question is whether Zac Taylor and this coaching staff can light that same spark again. The Bengals have the talent. The fans haven't gone anywhere. The city still believes, but belief only carries you so far. At some point, execution has to catch up to expectation. And that's the challenge facing this team heading into the next few weeks. Cincinnati doesn't need miracles. It needs leadership, direction, and accountability. The kind that turns potential into performance. Because even in a season that feels lost, there's still time to remind the league that the Bengals aren't built to stay down for long. Let's be honest, the Bengals are at a crossroads. You can feel it in every snap, every drive, every loss that shouldn't have happened. This isn't just another rough patch. This stretch could define their entire 2025 season. At this point, some fans are asking the hard question, is it time to think about draft position? It's not giving up, it's being realistic. If the next few weeks don't bring a turnaround, chasing a top pick might be the smartest long-term move. The next 5 games will tell the story. A trip to Green Bay won't be easy, then back-to-back battles with Pittsburgh could go either way. The Jets and Bears are both beatable, but the Bengals have to show consistency, something that's been missing all year. If they can somehow take 4 of the next 5, they're right back in the mix. Confidence returns, momentum builds, and suddenly playoff talk doesn't sound so crazy. But stumble here, and things could spiral fast, especially with what's waiting on the back half of the schedule. New England, Baltimore, Buffalo, those are battles that will test every weakness on this roster. And that looming game against the Dolphins might just be the key marker for Joe Burrow's potential return. But let's be real. If the Bengals aren't in the playoff hunt by then, risking your franchise quarterback's health makes no sense. The next month will decide everything, whether Cincinnati fights back or folds up. This is where we find out what kind of team the Bengals really are. Let's end this on something positive, because not everything went wrong on Sunday. The Bengals defense actually showed some life. It wasn't perfect, but there were flashes of the toughness this team is supposed to be built on. For the first time in a while, Lou Anarumo turned up the heat early, dialing up a few blitzes in the first half, and they worked. Trey Hendrickson continued to dominate with 2 sacks. Joseph Ossai got to the quarterback. Even rookie Myles Murphy added one of his own. The front 4 finally looked active, aggressive, and hungry. Against the run, the defense held up better than most people expected. Detroit's backs were limited to modest gains, around 50 yards each, and considering the short fields they were handed because of turnovers, that's a solid effort. If the offense had been even halfway functional, this defense might have had enough to pull out a win. And as for the fight Zac Taylor keeps talking about, let's be honest, that late push had more to do with the Lions easing up than some magical Bengals comeback. The energy from the defense was real, but the scoreboard told the truth. Still, there's a spark here. If this unit can build on that intensity, keep the pressure coming, and stop bailing out a struggling offense, they might just be the reason the Bengals stay competitive in the weeks ahead. Because even in a season full of disappointment, this defense still has the heart, and that's something worth holding on to.